government spends billions on free basic services like water. Remember, in terms of the free basic water policy, poor households, for example, should receive about 6,000 litres per household per month. The price tag for these basic services has been put at 63 billion rand, but there really is no gauge of the value that is being received by government or the poor. To discuss, we're joined, as we are every Monday, by SABC News Economics editor Tshepo Mongoai. Great to have you with us. So concerns about services are rife in South Africa, but we're talking about really required basic services. What are the concerns there?
Well, I think we have to point out that the free basic services that government is providing actually go a long way to help many poor households. But one of the concerns is that it needs to be quantified. I know that National Treasury for some time, they've tried to commission some studies to look at the value. Who are those beneficiaries? Does it really help? What are, the dynamics are changing. 3.5 million people who are classified as indigent. One of the issues is the definition of indigent, for example, is quite broad. Municipalities at times don't apply similar criteria to qualify these people. There are some municipalities who are using 3,500 rand as a household joint income. Others are using 1,300. But also what's more concerning is that even when studies are commissioned, studies need data, reliable data about the services. And where do they find the data? They're supposed to get that data from municipalities. And sometimes there is some incoherent information that is provided to the people who are supposed to make sense of it. Yeah. And that becomes one of the bigger challenge in terms of the services that these people are getting. We know that there's often a say that if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. You've mentioned 63 billion rand, but that money needs to be quantified and say that these are the people who are benefiting, these are the conditions. For example, a simple question about consumption patterns about these poor households. We can talk about water or electricity. No one knows about their consumption patterns, except that the 6,000 litres that government has made a target of. Some, they talk about 27 litres per individual in a household. But things change, dynamics change. They get 50 kilowatts a month as free basic electricity. Does that really, is it still enough after all these years? And how much do they need?
Never mind, is it still enough? People sometimes don't have water, they don't have any power for extended periods of time, so we don't know who's getting that basic allocation in the first place.
Yeah.
It sounds like, so government pays the money, so the 63 billion is going somewhere to municipalities, and then is that the disconnect? Because so many municipalities are in crisis, so you're saying they can't provide data on how they're spending the money that they are receiving from national government?
The issue is there may be systems in place in terms of how the money flows from treasury, municipalities, and I'm sure they can provide the list of those households that are actually receiving those free basic services. But one of the issues that sometimes data don't match up. You've got Stats SA that provides certain data, and sometimes you'd find that it's not consistent with the Stats SA data. It actually push up the number of people living in that municipalities, whereas Stats SA is giving a completely different numbers. And you've mentioned about the issue of illegal connection. That's another issue that makes it even more difficult to see if these free basic services are actually worth the money that Treasury is paying, because when you ask people, some people are not paying for it. So then you can't have a conclusive evidence and data in terms of who's getting what because of all those illegal connections. And I suppose maybe even the policy on free basic service needs to be relooked at and adjusted, that the municipalities rely on to reflect on the basic realities on the ground, because at the moment government just putting money there, but we're not sure if that money is actually benefiting those that really need to be benefiting from it.
It sounds like it, because last question, I mean, you cited an incredible discrepancy in the definition of what is a poor household. So we have a policy to help poor households, but you're saying at a national level, at a country level, we're not even defining what a poor household is.
That's true. I mean, there's relative poverty, there's absolute poverty, and there's vulnerable groups. Who's really poor here? I mean, the 350 grants, actually, you could tell that, these are some of them healthy men who can actually look for work, but they are experiencing financial hardships. They are actually poor, but they are poor in their own rights, in their own way, in a way. So that needs to also be agreed on in terms of the guidelines that municipalities are using. But the issue of expertise, municipalities don't have expertise in order to qualify those people, to make sure that they go out, they find those people who are poor and they benefit from it. So sometimes it's quite broad in terms of how they're addressing this issue. Yes. And yet every year National Treasury puts money aside and they say this is for free basic services.
All right, one of the budget issues, and we will talk about many more as we head towards budget. Before we let you go, the business news we would like to bring to our viewers tonight is the petrol price expected to kick in on Wednesday, but we don't know yet from government what the final answer is. What are we expecting quickly?
Well, we're still expecting an increase in the region of around 30 cents a litre, mainly because of some volatility in the local currency, and of course we've seen some slight uptick in the international oil price, and of course that's going to take away some of the benefits that we have enjoyed over the festive season. But the main question is, of course, the overall picture that is being painted is that inflation is coming down. Things could get better, but there are substantial risks that are with us that could tilt the picture the opposite. So we are watching this space very closely and to see, but the Reserve Bank thinks that core inflation, which is quite important, it should be at around just below 5%, and that helps because once you remove all the volatilities from fuel and energy and food, that gives you a better picture of what kind of inflation you are dealing with in a country.
All right, and we'll bring you the fuel price hike. That's what is expected as soon as that becomes available. And thank you, as always, economics editor Tshepo Mongoai.